Good morning, everybody. I can see who the early birds are for sure. I didn't really expect this many right off the bat this morning, but that's great. Hope you have your coffee. And this feels a little strange today because I'm just checking my monitor here. Yeah, looks like everything's coming through okay. All right, so yeah, I didn't really expect this many people this early. So welcome everybody. How is this going to work? I don't know. It feels a little strange to be sitting here by myself on a live without Walter. Of course, he's upstairs in bed, as he usually is at this time of day. And so this is an experiment. I'm going to try to keep it fairly light, chatty. I'm going to depend upon you. I'll be looking at your comments and trying to, work those comments into what we're talking about today. I do have my notes, as I usually do. And I had to adjust some of the notes around a little bit for this live this morning because it's a little different, of course, than doing a pre-recorded version of it. But anyways, I'm blabbering on. I got to have some coffee. So let's see who's joining us. Well, right off the bat, Julie Kuhn was number one. I think Julie was here around 7:30, if not a little earlier. And Jen is here from, I believe, Jen, you're in Perth, I think. And I looked it up to see what Perth, the difference is in time. So it's just after 9 p.m. your time. So yeah, it's late. Well, getting late for you, I guess. Jackie Kennedy is here. Caroline is here. At Quilter 7939 is here. Ivy is here. Jeannie's here. Hi, Jeannie. Gloria is here. Dubravka, you're always here. I see, though, that Al is not. He's like Walter. He's sleeping, of course. Christina is here. Christina, I think you're stateside right now, aren't you? I think. And Shadow Wind is here, and Karen B is here, and my friend Russ is here. He says, well, just say I'm only half conscious after QuiltCon. He's working from home today. Yep, we'll have to hear all about that. I'm sure we will on your vlog this week, Russ. Looking forward to that. Cheryl H is here. And let's see, Charlotte is here. And Jackie is here, but she's departing from QuiltCon today. Yeah, I think that was over yesterday on Sunday, right? If I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen a lot on YouTube of, like, I was expecting to see more like live type videos, but unless I missed them, I didn't see a whole lot. Marjorie is here, and Lily is here as well. Julie's hauling logs and enjoying listening to you. Oh, you're in your truck, are you? Julie, well, be careful. Cindy is here as well from snowy Maryland. And Mary H is here as well. Well, thank you all for getting up and getting your day going with me. I hope I get your day going off on a good note. You're making my day, because I really only expected like maybe one person might be here. But hey, so far so good. So let's see what's on the agenda. Well, let's talk about current projects. And let me pull up my screen for that. Yeah, so you know that I'm writing a pattern to go along with this particular panel right now. Now, just this morning, Bonnie, one of my subscribers, sent me a link to something called Quilt. It was Quilt something. Can't remember now what it was called. Anyways, I'm going to check that out later today. Sounds kind of interesting. She says it can handle panels really well because, you know, I had a little bit of problem or some problems with the panel. I'm just adjusting things over here. Getting it in Quilt Path, but thanks to another friend and subscriber, Heidi, she figured it out how to do it and told me, and yeah, now I know how to develop a quilt in Quilt, electric quilt with a panel. But anyways, I love this panel, and I think I talked to you yesterday a little bit on Stephen and Walter Live about the significance of this panel. It represents symbolically the plight of Native Indigenous women who are just mysteriously disappear out of our country. or somewhere. They are taken, possibly being sex trafficked or murdered, whatever. And our Canadian government has not done a whole lot about this. And it's definitely a point of contention with the Native peoples. And so this was designed to commemorate this or to show support. I think it was a fundraiser as well. Red is the color they have chosen to represent the missing Indigenous ladies. And the bear that's there, the very stylized bear that's got its front paws, is sort of hugging the faceless woman, faceless with the handprint too, again, to represent the missing females. This is a spirit bear, as far as I know, and of course it's protecting, it's wrapping her in its arms as well. So yeah, it's a very powerful quilt, and I loved it. Not before I ever knew the story behind the panel, just the colors alone. I think it comes in different colorways, but don't ask me where you can get it. You have to do a search for it because it's not really readily available. I mean, I bought this last year, I think, and it's not easy to get your hands on now. But anyways, I'm designing my second quilt around it. It's not my second quilt. It's a test, actually, for the design I made for the Falling Leaves quilt, which is the Quilt of Valor. So yeah, I'm working on that. And this week on the Idiot Quilter, I'm going to show you how you can make in the hoop fabric, because all of these little, there's 6 panels in this, and I put it together as a wild table runner, and it is pretty wild. It's all done in the hoop. So if you got an embroidery machine and you've got scrap fabrics, you can do this. And it's kind of cool. There are some things about it that make it not, like they suggest, it is a commercial pattern. It comes from Sweet Pea, I believe. And they recommend that you can make it into a quilt. Well, I do talk about that in the video that you'll see tomorrow about, I don't think it's really great for a quilt, but for a wall hanging, for a table runner, for placemats, for a bag, I think it'll work very, very well. And that's what I've been working on. Yeah. So let me go back to me, and let me go back so I can see your comments as well. Yeah, so we've had a few more people join me as I can't see my screen. Oh yeah, pour coffee down the front of me. Clean shirt this morning. This one has to do me 2 weeks. Yeah. I can't really see your comments when I'm showing you pictures because they come over top of my screen for this. But let's see. Where did I leave off here? Who came in while I was blabbing on? Sue Norfleet's here. Good morning, Sue. She had to go get coffee. Yes. East Coast Kim is here too. And Jackie says it's a beautiful panel. Yes, it is. Faith is here. Hi, Faith. Oh, she says, didn't want you to have anyone sharing coffee. Well, thank you for that. You can see we got a lot here. Cynthia is here as well. We have more than 20 inches of snow in Long Island, New York. Yeah, we do not at the moment yet. We'll come to the weather in a minute. But before we do that, I thought I'd share with you some comments from some of the videos last week and talk a little bit about them. So first of all, I got a comment from one subscriber, Rachel. She says, one question about 3D printing. Is it high power consumption? Actually, you would think it would be because, you know, there is heat involved to melt the filament and to heat up the bed that it goes on and all that kind of stuff. But no, actually, it does not use that much electricity. I have not seen any noticeable difference really in my hydro bill, which is a good thing because it's high enough now as it is. But I have seen some videos because I was curious about that myself. And, you know, like when you're running one machine, it's not much. When you're running 6 at times, yeah. But no, it really isn't. It's very good. on electricity. So I don't think that's really a major concern for most people. Of course, it all depends on your area and how your hydro works out, how you get charged for it. I see that Chris has popped in. Hi, Chris. And Pat's here. She says, okay, I was trying to post under the live chat under your video. Yeah, I woke up enough to figure out how to chat here. Okay, Pat, that's good to know. And she's embroidering baby chicks this AM. Okay. They're kind of hard to get under your needle, aren't they? They're kind of round, soft and fluffy. Yeah. Okay, Jackie said, Stephen, I enjoy your live with Walter this week. I undercut my love with YouTube and paid as well. Yeah, because we were talking about the fact that a month or so ago, Walter, unbeknown to me, went ahead and got a subscription to YouTube. And I had always said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not buying into them. But we now have a family plan, and I have to admit, I do like it because they're not interrupted every 2 minutes with an ad. So, yeah, but I just hate the way that they went about that. Basically, they were holding you at ransom for that. She says she loves no ads and it's worth the money, especially when I'm watching live. I enjoy so much your insight as I'm a retired nurse and feel pressure for the deadlines too. It took me 2 years before I could relax. So 2 things here, just before I move on to the second one. The first one about the paying for things. I've had a few other people reach out to me and tell me that they have started a subscription to YouTube too and like it a lot better. I guess the way I can justify it is that I watch a lot of YouTube. Both of us do, Walter and I too. We watch more YouTube than anything else. And it's where I get my news, from legitimate sources, of course. I mean, there's a lot of news channels out there on YouTube that are, they're just doing it to make money and sensationalizing everything. I watch primarily CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It's our national television network. And the National, which is part of that, which I can trust them for reliable news. They're not into sensationalism like, some of these upstarts that all came about, when the administration changed in the United States. So I guess it is kind of worth paying. I think we pay about $18 a month Canadian for that. But I just didn't like the way that they went about doing it. Pat says, I've decided to have to subscribe also and do like it. I watch the tube most of the time. Yeah, I think and YouTube is becoming, I think, a lot of people's chief source of entertainment and news and everything else. In some ways, it's almost replacing. I know some people don't even bother getting Netflix anymore. I won't give up my Netflix or my Apple TV. I have other subscriptions because I like the shows that are on those. But yeah. And then the second part of this was actually, she said she's a retired nurse and she felt pressure for deadlines too. And it took her 2 years before she could relax. And I had made the comment that, sometimes I get myself a little overwhelmed with projects that I'm working on because I'm always working on projects. And I put undue pressure on me. Like, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. Well, no, I don't. There is nobody out there waiting for me to tell me to get this done, But I think it's just from so many years when you're working and you've got deadlines. It is hard to get over that. And I mean, I've been retired now for over 13 years. You'd think it would kick in. So this year I am trying to get my head around that and go, hey, wait. My time is my time. There is no one standing over top of me except myself that's putting pressure on me. So I just say to myself, get over it. Pat also says, I did give up Netflix and Hulu. I did not even know I had Hulu. Oh, okay. Yeah. We can't get Hulu. I don't think in Canada. We might be able to now. I know at one time we couldn't. Or it's sometimes wrapped up in one of the other subscription services like Crave. Crave is a Canadian one. We do have a subscription to it. It's kind of crappy, but Walter found a deal, and there were a couple of things on there like Heated Rivalry we wanted to watch. So yeah, we have that too. I don't like to think about how many subscriptions we have for these things, because if you started looking at it and look at how much you spend a year, yeah, it might get you a little uptight. Oh, M's here. Hi, M. M's all the way over in Taiwan, so yeah, late there or early there, one or the other. Now another subscriber said, Kathy, I guess it depends on your. Oh, so she said maybe an ad blocker would be cheaper than a YouTube subscription. Well, I tried an ad blocker with YouTube. Now, this is a while ago, quite a while ago, and it didn't seem to work with YouTube. I don't know, maybe there are ones now that will work with it. But yeah, that didn't work for me. And she said, yeah, I guess it depends on your device and browser. And she says she switched from Chrome to Firefly on her PC so she could use a free blocker called Unlock Origin. Google Chrome doesn't support it and it works for me. Okay, so, whatever works for you, right? And Rachel said, I need a cutting of that plant. If you can remember, I showed, I think it was last week, the corn plant, as we call it. It is a form of a yucca. That plant has been with us longer than Walter and I have been together. And we've been together for 42 years. So yeah, that's how old the plant is. And every so often, Walter has to cut it back and he'll reroot the stock. But yep, we've had that plant forever. And it started out as like a $3.99 plant from Zellers. And for those of you that are Americans, Zellers was a Canadian department store here for many, many years. And they finally went out of business, and Target came in a few years ago and bought up all the empty stores and tried to get Target into Canada. And that failed miserably. Yeah. And then she says, Mickey and Minnie are cute. Dare I ask? Pray, why were you dressed as a Minnie? Minnie Mouse. Yeah, I showed the Mickey and Minnie 3D print things that I did for Valentine's Day. And years ago, we went to a Halloween party and we dressed up as Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Walter had this headgear that his sister had made for her kids, and they were very small then. This is quite a few years ago. So he had to take some of the stuffing out of the headgear so we could fit it on our heads. And then I just jokingly said to Walter at the time, well, I'll go as Minnie Mouse, but I want a dress, and I want it in polka dots, and I want an empire waist and cap sleeves. I had no idea what an empire waist and cap sleeves were. Something I heard at the time. Well, guess what Walter did? He made me one. This was before Walter got into sewing, and he didn't really have a pattern. He just looked at an old, I think he said a sweatshirt kind of a thing, and to figure out shoulders and that, and added a bottom to it. It was a great costume. And I made matching shoes to go with it with little bows. He made the bows, I think, and the whole bit. It was really cute. And we should have won first prize for the couples prize at the thing we were at, but they didn't have a couples prize. But I had worn it since, well, not a long time ago. I wore it to school on Halloween once because the teachers all kind of dressed up. And the kids just went hysterical over it. The skirt was a little short. I had a pair of shorts underneath it. Yeah. But I was wearing like mesh stockings or something with it too. I mean, Minnie Mouse was kind of sexy. And I do remember going into the vice principal's office that morning. She wanted to talk to me about something. So I went in, sat down in the chair in front of her desk, crossed my legs, and like a lady mouse. And she started talking about what we're talking about. And she says, I can't do this. She says right now, I can't look at you and have a serious conversation about it. And I said, okay, thanks very much. See you later. Bye-bye. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. But that was the last time I think I had Minnie out. So that's probably about 15 years ago. I doubt that I would fit into the Minnie Mouse dress anymore. Yeah, it's kind of sad. So that was some of the comments last week. Just to let you know, I've said it before, but I read every comment, and I try to make some response to every comment. Some I'll just send a little like or a little heart, meaning, yeah, thank you for your comment, because there was really nothing more for me to comment on. But if you've asked me specific questions or something like that, then I do try to answer those back as well. So keep the comments coming. Now, there's an interesting thing popping up. I'll just get rid of that. You can't see it, but I can. Okay, so what's been happening at home and elsewhere? Well, if you want to keep up with Canada, sorry, going to get a tiny bit political, but I'm trying to hold back on the politics, okay, which isn't easy, because of, as usual, the Great Pumpkin has put more things out in the ether. But there are 3 channels that I like to watch on YouTube that I think are very reliable and have very good perspective on what's happening. And Planet D is one of them. It's 2 Canadians. They are very, very smart people, very well educated, have traveled the world, because originally their channel was about their travel to different parts of the world. They have very polished presentation, and they talk about things, and they lay everything out in a way that is very understandable. Of course, it's from a Canadian perspective, but you know, if you're not a Canadian, I don't think you really get a whole lot of information about what's going on in our country. I know that anytime I turn on the American news, if when we were down in the States, in the days when we used to go to the States, you'd see a map of North America. Canada wasn't there. We were just one big blob of color. That was it. And sad to say, and you know, it's almost unbelievable, but it does happen. I have seen where Americans don't really know where Canada is. Some, not all, of course, just the stupid ones. But that's kind of sad. So if you want to know how we see things from a Canadian perspective, it might be good to check something out like this. That and Claus Kellerman. He is excellent. Now, when you first turn him on, he's going to look like a wild man. His hair is every which way. He dresses kind of semi-homeless, but very, very smart man. And he lays everything out. You know, this, and this, and he's got his information from reliable sources as well. He does the fact-checking and the background, you know, information. He researches all of that. So those 2 I highly recommend, and I put links in them in the show notes. So when this goes up for rebroadcast, you can check them out if you're interested. Another one is actually an American. His name is Tod Maffin, and he actually describes his channel as like Mr. Rogers, but for adults. And he again is one with very reliable information, but he does it in a fairly entertaining way as well. So, you know, those are sources that you might want to just take a peek at if you're interested, because they give a different perspective on a lot of things. Let's see. Kate has joined us. Thank you, Kate. It's good to see you too. Dubrovka says, I must say coffee tastes better with you than alone. I feel like you popped in for a coffee on a second cup already. Yeah, I could use a second cup too. I'm kind of milking this one because it means I'd have to go upstairs and leave you to your own devices. And I know what happens when I leave you to your own devices, if Wednesday so days are any indication of that. So one other thing just popped up in the news yesterday. I don't know if you heard about it. You probably did. But oh my God, there's stuff going on in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico with the cartel. They're setting off bombs and fires and things. I guess the head of the cartel or something got killed or whatever, and they're taking it out on Puerto Vallarta for some reason. Now, why this really, why Walter and I both have an interest in this, is that you've heard me mention Brendan, the guy who Walter learned how to sew from, and that we go to his sew days, and we're supposed to go to one this Saturday. This might be up in the air because he's in Puerto Vallarta. He was actually supposed to get on a flight yesterday to come back home to Canada. He's been there for about 2 weeks. He goes every year. He loves it. He says Puerto Vallarta is very, very safe. And, well, Walter has been in contact with him, and he says, yeah, they've been locked down into their hotel room. The flights have all been canceled. He's not sure when he's going to get a flight back home. So, yeah, and he's there with a bunch of friends as well. So, yeah, but they said the hotel's been really good to them. Like they didn't kick them out or anything. They've been able, well, of course, all the people that were supposed to be coming in there can't, because flights have been canceled to Puerto Vallarta until they get this under control. So, yeah, isn't that something? Really. And in fact, Walter's been bugging me for a few years that he keeps saying we should go to Mexico, and Puerto Vallarta. And if you don't know, Puerto Vallarta is very much the gay Mexican Riviera in there, and it's supposedly very safe and everything like that. And everybody that goes seems to have a good time. I've always put up resistance to going to Mexico. We have never been. Well, except one time we took a bus trip when we were in San Diego to Tijuana and back again. Like that was it. So after hearing all these things that our friends have said about Puerto Vallarta, I've said, maybe, I just said the other day, I said, maybe we should look into going to Puerto Vallarta, maybe next winter for a while. And then this happens. And I said to Walter, I'm not going to Puerto Vallarta. Yeah, I mean, I know that this doesn't happen every day there, but I don't know. I have a little bit of a phobia about going to Mexico. I don't know why. Just do. I love Mexican food. So yeah, so that's what's happening there. Judy says, yeah, I made it to your live. Yay, Judy. And Mary says, I agree. I do not have any desire to go to Mexico. Yeah, it's just, now my sister, she used to go every year about this time. I don't think they went this year, but that's because her in-laws have a timeshare. And there'd be a whole bunch of them go down, and she always had a good time. She always looked forward to it as well. So I don't think they were going down this year. Maybe just, but it wasn't Puerto Vallarta they went to. They went to someplace else, and don't ask me where it was. But they always loved it. They said they had a good time. They never felt that they were in any kind of danger or anything. Mind you, they stayed in an area that is, where all the timeshare condos are. It's a big development, restaurants. It's kind of like a resort, but it's, very secure. Caroline says she agrees. She doesn't feel Mexico is safe anymore either. And Chris says bottled water. Yeah, because there was some report. There was a whole bunch of people came back on a flight from some resort in Mexico, and they all got a parasite, which didn't sound too good. And apparently it was also E. coli or something too. So yeah, that's another thing you don't know, right? Of course, that could happen to you anywhere in the world as well, not just Mexico. When we're traveling, we do not drink the water. We buy bottled water. But, you don't know what they're using. Now, in the restaurants, if you're getting food, it's being cooked, it's being boiled, whatever. So you're probably pretty safe there. Knock wood, the only time we had any problem, and it wasn't me, it was Walter, when we were in China. He got, well, it's not unusual for Walter to have some stomach problems, that result in down lower, you know what I mean, kind of a thing. And he had it bad, but he wasn't the only one. We were on a tour group thing, and a lot of people, about half of them in our tour, got this. And the guy who was our tour guide, he was Chinese, and he had these, we called them the magic pills. He gave everybody that was having a problem, he had a supply of these, and it worked like overnight. It was great. He told us, I couldn't tell you what the name of them were. He told us where we could get them, like just in a pharmacy. And the next day, everybody in our tour group was lined up to get themselves a bottle. She didn't need prescription for it. So I think we came home with some too, but that was many years ago now. They've long gone, expired, but they worked really well. I did not get the problem, and I usually don't have a problem. May have a cast iron stomach. I don't know. And I had the same thing to eat as Walter did. So I guess I just lucked out on that one. Cindy Kiefer says, I was in Puerto Vallarta in 2014. It was filthy. There were cars parked, caked with dirt, and flat tires like they were just deserted. Yeah, you know, I'm sorry to say, and it may be a stereotype, but I have that image of Mexico myself. But from what friends have told us and what my sisters said, yeah, there are parts definitely like that. But where they stay in that, nope, it's very, very nice. So, you know, but you can go anywhere in the world and, you know, you can see that kind of thing too. There are the good parts and the bad parts everywhere. Shoot, we have parts in my own city that I live in, you know, that we don't go in because, no, you just don't. Dvorovka says, oh my lord, I would never go to a dirty, unsafe country. Yeah, but like I'm saying is there are parts in every country that are that way. And the other thing I have found over the years is, you know, before we started traveling, our only real knowledge of another country was whatever we saw on TV. And, you know, like, and I say this to the kids in school, I said, do you know that in Africa they have skyscrapers? They have cars. They have modern department stores and things like that. But we never see images of that in Africa. We see a bunch of natives, children with flies on them, living in grass huts, all this kind of stuff. And yes, that does exist. But the media shows you only that you don't see the other side. So, of course, you have a, you know, a bad mentality about it from that. I mean, I can tell you when we went to Egypt, I always thought that the pyramids were way out in the middle of the desert somewhere. Oh, no, they're not. They're within a stone's throw of a Kentucky Fried Chicken and shopping and everything else. They are not out in the boonies in the desert. You don't have to get a camel and go to the pyramids. It was kind of disappointing in some ways. You know, that because you always had this vision, you know, exotic out there in no man's land kind of a thing. So, yeah, we have to take it with a grain of salt. But that doesn't mean we can't be cautious either, because you should be when you travel. M says, it was not Walter. It was China. It was the medicine it was, okay, I think he means it wasn't the Walter. It was China. Was the medicine Japanese? Nope, medicine was Chinese. I know, M, you have a hate on for China for good reasons, since they're trying to take your country over and everything. And I'm sorry that I have to say this, but when we went to China, it was a great trip. We had a really great trip. And again, here's where we had seen images beforehand and we thought, you know, ooh, China, yuck, ick, ooh. And there are parts, of course there are parts, as I've already said, in any city. But we had a really great time. But of course, we're not being threatened like your country is, Em, by it. So, yeah. Cindy says, I went to a restaurant I believe was called Al Real and dedicated to Night of the Iguana, a tall statue of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Okay, so that's something. M says, Walter again with a star. Okay. I think you mean water, right? M, you just, your fingers hit the L where there shouldn't be an L. I guess, I'm hoping that's what you mean. Okay, so that's the world. What's going on around here? So, new product review? Nope, didn't buy anything new. Yeah, I know, you find that surprising. Actually, I did. I bought some filament, but that's just filament. That's a supply. That's really not anything new. So, some highlights from the videos last week. The Idiot Quilter. I showed you how to make a cheap gift, basically, a personal gift with the portfolios, the felt portfolios that you pick up at the Dollarama. For those of you that are Canadian, you know what a Dollarama is. A dollar store that nothing's a dollar. I think now the cheapest thing you can buy in there is about $1.50. And they had those felt portfolios, which were made out of the same felt as the bags I made at Christmas time and gave as gifts. So I did a whole process video about how I embroidered them. And you really, this brought up some interesting information too. We were in the Dollarama again looking for more of those, and I finally found them. Not every Dollarama always has everything other Dollaramas have. You got to hunt, or they put it in different places. And I finally found some more of those portfolios for future projects, and I bought 6 of them. Actually, I wiped out that particular Dollarama of what they had. And as we were going through there, I'm looking at other things. And, never underestimate your dollar stores, except maybe the one you have down the States called Dollar General. I was in one of those once. You want to talk about filthy. Holy crap. What a dive. And I've heard from other Americans too that, yeah, Dollar General is that way, generally speaking. Dollaramas are not. They're very clean, well organized, lots of things to choose from, and the stuff is becoming better quality all the time. Of course, the prices are going up too, as well. Hi, Mona. So I was thinking, well, use your imagination. Like, there's lots of things you can buy in a dollar store that if you've got an embroidery machine, or even if you do decorative stitching on your domestic sewing machine or whatever, that you can find. There are towels. Yes, the towels are not your absolute best grade of material in them. However, if you're making something as a decorative, they would probably work. And I'm thinking Christmas time, that kind of thing. They have aprons that you could jazz up a little bit with embroidery. They have placemats. They have tea towels. All those kind of things, which would do for, a quick little hostess gift or something like that. And there's other things in there as well. I'm always looking at the bags that they have. I haven't tried it yet, but they have these vinyl bags. They look sort of like a purse, over the shoulder kind of thing, under $5. And the vinyl looks more like a pleather. And I'm thinking, you could probably do something with those on your embroidery machine or whatever. I haven't tried it yet. Future project. So maybe that would be a good segment on the Idiot Quilter. Can I make something out of this cheap piece of crap? Kind of a deal. I don't know. But never underestimate it. On So Chatty this week, Walter was learning how to use Quilt Path. Actually, he was watching me set it up because he was doing the filming. This week, I am hoping that Walter is we're going to set up Lucey for him, and he's going to try some free motion quilting. He's going to see what he can do, because that's what he's really interested in more than anything else. And I have a feeling he'll be very good at it. And I'm hoping he will, and I'm hoping he likes it, because, I've already said it before many times. My ideal would be I do the patchwork, he does the quilting. Because, to be honest, I don't really like doing the quilting, even with the computer, because you have to babysit it. And I don't like standing there for like 4 or 5 hours waiting for it to finish the quilt. So a lot of people think it's, set it and forget it. It's not. It's not, believe me. Especially my Lucey. As soon as I turn my back on her, the little bitch gives me hell. So yeah. But we're going to do some practice cloth. Faith, who's here, she recommended when she first got into long arm quilting, that it was recommended to her to use some cheap bed sheets instead of your good fabric. But Walter doesn't want to do that. He wants to use actual fabric, because his theory is actual cotton fabric that we would make our quilts out of, or he would make his shirts out of, is better quality, and it might work. You get a better feel when you're doing free motion quilting. He's got tons of fabric that'll work for this in his stash, so we're not worried about it. But that is a good suggestion that Faith gave, because, you know, it's cheaper for it. And when you're just, you know, screwing around trying to learn how this thing works, then yeah, that might be the way to go. And Mona says she agrees that Dollar General stores are horrible. Yeah, the one I went into was right next door to the quilt store in Dahlonega when there a couple of years ago when I was down at the retreat in Dahlonega. And we went in there and oh yeah, it's funny. They had things that should be kept frozen sitting on the floor. And nobody seemed to be too concerned about picking it up. That was kind of weird. But you could get a $15 bra. Don't ask. Faith says, would like to see what a picker is. The faux seam ripper for picking out a quilt. I'm not sure what it looks like. No rush, maybe on So Chatty. Okay, I'll try to remember that for this week, Faith. Yeah, because we did bring that up and I didn't really have it handy to show you. But it is a good thing to have if you're a long armor, because it really helps if you've got to pick out quilting stitches. And believe me, nobody wants to pick out quilting stitches. They're horrible. They're small. They're tight. It's a pain. Ask me how I know. That's another thing Walter doesn't mind doing. He has this patience. And there was some quilt that I was working on back, quite a while ago, and something went terribly wrong. And I was trying to pick out the stitches, and I just got very, very angry and frustrated with it because I don't have that kind of patience. But Walter does, and he says, give it to me. And he did it. He kind of likes doing it. But he did use both the regular seam ripper and the picker that I was talking about. So yeah, I'll try to remember when we do the next video with Walter to show that so you can see what we're talking about. Judy Hubbard's here. On Lucey, do you have belts have to be loosened in order to free motion? No. On the APQS machines, what they have done is they have like a bar that comes across and holds your monitor, holds your tablet on that. And there's a separate motor as well that runs the whole thing over. So there's two little clamps. And all you have to do is flip the clamps up. It takes a second. And that whole unit, you can slide to one end of your system. And away you go. You can do your free motion. You've got your handles and everything else, the needle and whatnot. It's great for that. So you can switch over in seconds without having to loosen your belts or anything. You just have to unclamp this part. Hi, Inez. Inez says, I had a quilt ruined by a long armor and tried to pick it out. Oh no, I couldn't do it. Yeah. If you get to the point where if you were doing a whole quilt, I would just say, yeah, cut it up, put it in a corner, whatever. Because you're never going to get those all out. It would drive you mental. Okay, so what's coming up? Well, we had the pop-up sew day on Saturday. We had about 25 people there. That was good. That was a nice turnout. I got a lot done, and you can see it over my shoulder over there with the panel. I got some of the blocks done that go into it. There are many more to go on that. Yeah, we always learn something. This is where we learned about using bed sheets to practice on your long arm, because Faith brought it up then. And yeah, and we had some new people, and we had a new male as well. In fact, we had, let's see how many males were on there. The height, counting myself and Walter. There was Lance, there was Grant. Yeah, there were 4 guys. That's pretty good with that. So yeah, if you missed it, when's the next one? I'm thinking maybe March the 21st. March the 7th. I mean, it's hard to believe we're going to go into March next week. On March the 7th, I can't do it that day because I am a guest on Sean, the guy who sews, on his 8 o'clock in the morning live on the Saturday. So I'm busy then. The next weekend is supposed to be another sew day with Walter's group, so the in-person one. So I'll be going to that. So that would leave the next weekend after that, which is the 21st. So maybe. Now, there is a possibility. I don't know how Brendan, who runs the sew days, is going to feel like when he's going to get back from Puerto Vallarta. That's the other thing, too. So he may be just not in the mood to have a sew day when he gets back here. Hopefully he's not going to be delayed too many days, because I think he has to go back to work as well. So yeah, that's going to be kind of a thing for him. So we'll see. But right now, tentatively, you can pencil it in March the 21st for pop-up sew day. Let's see. Jackie says my Millie requires attention too. Yeah, they do. All machines do. My embroidery machine that sits behind me, I swear they talk to each other. I think Lucey is the instigator, but my embroidery machine will do things if I leave the room. It's running fine for hours on end. I leave for 1 minute to like grab a coffee, right? Or something like that. Come back downstairs and I have a giant bird's nest. Why? You know? So yeah, they do that. They have minds of their own. I blame it on AI. Yeah. Hi, Barb. Rob says, guess who's up now? He said good morning to you. Oh, morning, Al. Is he getting himself a coffee too? Okay, so let's talk about the weather, because we always like to talk about the weather. So what's it looking like at my place? Well, we know that on Long Island. Yeah, Long Island. It's snowing like crazy. And I think along the eastern seaboard, it may be snowing like crazy, at least down in the States. Not sure what's going on here in Canada. But this is not what I want to show you. Get the right thing up here. Okay, where is it? Here it is. Oh, come on. Keep hitting the... I need Walter here to tell me I'm an idiot, because he would. This is what I want. Here we go. Okay. There's what's looking like outside my house right now. Actually, I took this about an hour ago or so. So yeah, it's not doing anything right now. We had little light snow yesterday, and according to the weather, it is -3 right now, but it feels like -13 degrees Celsius, so it's coolish. And snow is expected to start in 25 minutes, it says. And I'm looking at the map, and yeah, it looks like there's a big snow cloud thing going to be passing through. I don't think it's going to last forever. Yeah, 9 a.m., 85% chance of snow, and at 10 a.m., 90% chance. Okay, it's winter, it's Canada, we get that. So tomorrow, 60% chance of snow, and a temperature of -6. Wednesday, it warms up to -1 as a high, and 80% chance of snow. Okay, so snow is coming. Well, Walter will be excited, because as soon as the first flakes of snow hit the ground, he's out there shoveling away. And I have not been out for 2 days for my walk, because the sidewalks have been treacherous, because there's ice under the snow, like black ice, and yeah, all fun and games till someone breaks a hip, so yeah, but I'm going to attempt it maybe this morning after we're finished here. So that's what's happening out there. And what else? Oh, the grow lights. Okay, I wasn't going to do grow lights on these Monday morning with coffee, but people told me they love the grow lights, so I'm looking for ways to spice it up, to talk about maybe different things about our grow lights. Here's one of them right now. Now, okay, some of this looks a little dead, because it is. It's lettuce though, but there's a new crop coming up. We always have lots of lettuce. Here's Grow Light 2. Now, this is a newer crop of lettuce here. Need to clean out the dead stuff that's down here. And this is our basil. And the basil's gone wild. Look at the stalk on that. That's pretty thick. By the way, these little yellow things are for the little bugs that come out of the soil. These little gnats or whatever they are. They drive me mental. They catch them. But I have another little thing, which is a little container that you put a little water, a little wine in it, and a little bit of yeast. And they like that. It attracts them and they drown in it. And that works pretty well. But I think they've gone a little bit dormant right now because we don't have, although I did see one little guy, and I'm hoping he was real. I always say to Walter, did you see that little gnat? And he goes, yes. Or if he wants to screw with me, he goes, I don't see any bugs. Yeah. My father, when he had dementia, he'd see bugs that weren't there. Yeah. I mean, on a serious note, it does worry me. So, yeah. If they're real, I hate them, but at least it's better than the imaginary ones in some ways. But anyways, yeah. So now this lettuce that we have, I think it's called the variety Great Lake lettuce or something. It grows really well under the grow lights. Not all lettuce that we've tried do very well under the grow lights. And then, of course, we have what I call the jungle. This is where our bush tomatoes grow, kitchen tomatoes, they call them. And you can see we got another crop coming. You know, we had a lot of flowers. I think a week ago I showed you this picture and you saw all the little yellow flowers. Now, these are all green tomatoes and they're ripening up. And so we always have tomatoes. And right in the very back, well, I guess that's not it. Right in the very back, this is our green peppers. Now, they've kind of gone a little dormant, but there were some little buds coming out on them. So the peppers take a long time, even when you grow them outside. I read somewhere they take about 80 days to come up. So we actually had to buy a green pepper last week at the grocery store. And my God, we had to take out a small mortgage to buy a green pepper. Yeah, this is why we do this. Now, the other things that we have growing around here are my philodendrons. Now, there's a story behind these philodendrons. We have had, and I don't have a picture of it, but over in the corner off screen, there is a big pot on a stand that belonged to Walter's oldest sister. And when she passed away, which was about 15 years ago, we took the plant, and it was a philodendron in that, and we've had it ever since. And philodendrons are about the only thing I can grow without killing them. So it was getting a little bit pot bound. So early last fall, I repotted it the whole bit, cleaned it up. But when COVID hit, I started to take little trimmings off of the mother plant and starting them. And if you look over here in the corner, there's a little glass vase. That's where I take trimmings from all of the plants when they start to hang way over on the edge, off the edge of the breakfast bar, they call that, in the kitchen. I trim them, I root them, and I plant them. And that's why I have so many. There's a picture of the rooting of it there. That's why I have so many of them. But I love them because, you know, it brings something green into the house. It's kind of nice. This is an open concept area. This is our family room kitchen, everything. This, you know, our kitchen table's over on this side. And it sort of acts in a way like a little bit of a barrier. And so I just keep growing the suckers because they never die on me. So yeah, I'm very proud of my philodendrons. They bring me happiness. Let's see here. Just kind of go back to see you. Oh, we've got Elizabeth is here. Inez says they've got snow, and more snow because Inez is out in Newfoundland. Elizabeth says, good morning, Stephen. This will be the shortest visit I have made in a long time, but on Mondays I have 30 some odd people waiting for me to come open up the gym at our church to have weekly game. Okay. Well, that sounds good. Christina says, -2 in Apex, North Carolina, close to RDU Airport. Okay. you realize, Christina, that most of that didn't make any sense to me. um, and that's in Celsius, -2 in Celsius. Okay, so you're about the same as we are here. Um, okay, so what else did I want to tell you today? Oh, 3D printing. Yes, all right. So let me find, yeah, I had to print this because it was so cute. And I did it again. I hit the wrong button. I can hear Walter in my ears, that he's still asleep, saying, "You're an idiot." Okay, this thing's really cute. Little sewing machine doing patchwork. Um, it's not the best print. You see layer lines on this, but that's the way it was designed. Well, it wasn't designed well, but I still thought it was cute, and I went ahead and printed it. It's supposed to be, I think, a Christmas tree ornament because it has a little loop here for you to, you could hang it from something. But I just thought that was kind of fun. And then during the sew day, the pop-up sew day, Lance, one of the males quilters there, he showed me this, the sewing machine silhouette. And I guess his nephew has a 3D printer and printed this for him. And I thought it was really cute. So I found the model and printed one out myself and put in my lights in there. And actually, if you look behind me, go this way, there you can see it. And it changes colors. It's on top of the other things that I have. I have a lot of lights down this room that do nothing more than just change color. But I thought that was kind of fun. And I figured out that it could fit where I have it. And yeah, we have Stephen and Walter here. And this is all printer poop in the background. And it changes colors too. And that's a 3D image of both Walter and myself as well that I played around with and made. Turned out not too bad. So yeah. Now, what else? Okay, my dollhouse. Yeah, I'm making a dollhouse, all 3D printed. And the interior and the furniture and everything else I do is all going to be 3D printed. So I got the dollhouse together. It's actually fairly big. I was surprised at the size. And now I've got to figure out how I'm going to furnish it and decorate it and that kind of thing. And you're going to say, why do you want a dollhouse? Well, I've always wanted a dollhouse, actually, since I was a little kid. But I never got one of those. It's like right up there with the Easy Bake Oven. Never got one of those either, and I wanted one. But you know, it was the 60s. Boys didn't play with girls' toys. Kind of a thing, so I didn't get those. Now, my brother-in-law, just before my niece was born, he was making a really elaborate dollhouse. And it was made from wood and everything. I guess he probably still has it. My niece is now almost 31 years old. So I should ask him about that. But he had this, but I don't know if he was making all the furniture for it or not, or whether he was buying pieces from their stores, where you can buy these. But I got turned on to this idea because I started watching this thing on Netflix, where they have a competition where people they're artists, really, make dollhouses and furnish them, and they have challenges every week. I want to say Make It Mini, but that's not what it's called. There's a name for it. Can't remember, but it's there. But I find it really interesting. But I know I could never ever make what they make. I couldn't work that small. Plus, I don't have the artistic ability to make things like little furniture and little tiny pieces of like that look like food and everything like that. But I have a 3D printer, and I did some research, and wow, there are tons of miniature things for dollhouses that are available for free on various 3D printing sites where I get my models. So I've got the house. Now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to put on the walls as far as wall coverings. And I've been printing out a couple of things, test things like wainscoting and that kind of stuff. And then I have to do floors and then furnish. And I think the bottom floor is going to be the living room kitchen. I think this one's going to be either probably a home office, and it comes out on this little patio. It's kind of a weird house because why would you have a patio out on this level? I suppose if this was your basement, I don't know. And this will probably be the bedroom. I don't know if I'm going to put in a bathroom or not. Maybe I should. There are things I can print for that. So we'll see. This is going to be one of those ongoing projects. I'll work on it every time I feel like it. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it. Right now I have it sitting on my project table. I cleaned off a few things on it so it can sit over there. That's the problem when you do this 3D printing stuff, trying to find places for it all. And I think that was the last one in there. Yep. So let's come back to where I can see everybody. Kate says, really fun. Pat says, so excited about your dollhouse. I had one many years ago and love finding the accessories and furniture. Yeah, I kind of think it's going to be fun too. Something a little different, you know, from what I've done before. Inez says she always wanted a dollhouse. You will have to eat so much fun decorating. Oh, I guess you will have so much fun decorating. I wish I was close, I'd help. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun, you know, group project kind of deal. Barb says, I still have my turquoise Easy Bake oven in the crawl space. Yep, I always wanted an Easy Bake oven. I was in the closet with an Easy Bake oven. The little girl next door, when I was a kid, she had one. So we used to sneak into her basement and we'd cook. Yeah. Didn't let my parents know. They were not very happy. They didn't want me to have that kind of thing. Not that they were really so much, it was because, you know, girl thing, boy thing. It was more because the light bulb that was in it, and my mother was afraid I would set the house on fire. And it is a very good possibility I would. I mean, I did set the microwave on fire years ago. I had read that you could dry your herbs in a microwave. I had a book. And at that time, this was in the house we had before this house. So it's many, many years ago, like about 35 years ago. And we had a big garden at that house and we were growing herbs in it. And so I decided I wanted to dry them in the microwave, found a book. And everything was drying pretty well in there, except summer savory. No one told me that that one was highly flammable. Yeah, I turned my back for a second on it, came back. I had flames coming out of the microwave. I got that under control real quick. And then I'm cleaning up the mess because it blackened the outside of the microwave and everything like that. And I kind of forgot about the inside of the microwave when I was cleaning. Walter came home from work because it was summertime. I was home, you know, because it was teacher. And he comes in and he looked inside the microwave and goes, oh, what happened here? I went, Ricky! What you do now, Lucy? Yeah. So, fire and myself. Not a good match. Let's see here. I'm just catching up what people say. And that says, if you watch Arn and Carlos in Norway, they have dollhouses and make clothes for the dolls. Yes, I have seen that. I used to watch Arn and Carlos. I don't much anymore. Because I don't knit, and that's primarily what they're about. But yeah, I did see their dollhouse that they had. Actually, their dollhouse is a little spooky. And their dolls look a little creepy, actually. Rachel says hi. Hi, Rachel. Pat says it might be fun to have an outhouse. Okay. Didn't think of that. That might be, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Kate says, the house is an extension of your village collection. Yeah, it's a little bigger than my village collection, though. That's the only problem. But yeah, I've always had a thing about little houses and stuff. So yeah. Lily says she loves the dollhouse. Looking forward to watching you build it. Going to be fun. I hope so. I hope so. I should do some video as well with it. Maybe. I don't know. Might be like watching paint dry because, you know, once you're over the novelty of a 3D printer printing things, it's kind of like, yeah, boring to watch. So that's something I'm up to. Showed you that. Okay, next week. Now, I was going to do it this week, but because I decided to do this as a live, I have about a 30-minute video in my series that I'm creating now about 3D printing. Last week, I talked about, how to get into 3D printing, what the best printer, in my opinion, is for anybody who's just getting started in it and that kind of thing. This week, what I was going to show you was one, where do you find models? They call them models that you can eventually print in your printers. And how do you get the models so that your printer can read them? Because they have to create a code called a G code, which is a computer language that the printer understands, and it tells it, what it's supposed to do. And the program you use for that is called a slicer. So next week on Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen, I will have a video about that if you're interested in seeing that. And as I said, I'm building on this series. So, I've had a lot of people mention that they're interested in this kind of stuff, even if they don't have a 3D printer. And there are lots of videos on YouTube already about all of that. But this is from my perspective. So, yeah, I'm doing that. Okay, so just some interesting things, because we've gone now a little over an hour, so I've got to wrap this up, because I am sure you probably have things to do today. I have things to do today, and I'm almost out of coffee. But some interesting things when I scour YouTube and the internet, I found. I want to know if the younger generation is getting stupider, because there's been a bunch of YouTube videos where they ask Gen Z, the generation that's coming up now, basic questions. They ask them things like, what's 3 times 3? What's 15% of 100? What's the capital of the UK? Actually, videos I was watching came from the UK. These people could not answer these things. In fact, their answers were ludicrous. One question. How many moons does Earth have? Okay, now, that might be a trick question, because they just discovered a rock they're calling the second moon to Earth that got into the orbit out there. I think it's a small asteroid or something like that, but it's really not a moon in the sense. But they couldn't even say like one. Okay, do you ever look into the night sky? Really? Like stupid things like that, which makes me worried about things on several different levels, especially when you come from being a teacher. Like, what are they learning in school? What's going on? Or is it because they're always buried in their phones and tablets or whatever? It makes me worry, because this is the generation that's taking over, And we have already enough stupid people from our own generation. We don't need more of them. So it could be a little disastrous to our development as a civilization, right? I mean, can you say Planet of the Apes? How can we prevent these kind of things? I think we got to limit their screen time at an early age, because kids are born with an iPad in their hand or a cell phone pretty much these days. And that's the job of parents. It is not the job of the school system. The schools are already fighting with these kids and their electronics all the time. I mean, making policies, at least here in my area, where they're not allowed to have a cell phone in the classroom and that kind of thing. But on the other hand, too, teachers are using technology as part of the curriculum, so it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? But parents have got to crack down on them. And I think we need to teach kids at an early age, like even preschool age, how to use technology to their benefit, but not to rely upon it completely for all of their knowledge. And with AI, as we've already talked about, that's kind of scary how that might all work. Cynthia says this was fun. Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And so did Inez. And so did Gloria. And Inez says, you're right, younger generation is so sad. Sue said she tried to bake an oatmeal raisin cookie in the microwave and the raisins started to smoke. I'm laughing because I tried something like that once myself. Yeah. The first meal I ever cooked for Walter was beef stroganoff, and I did it in my microwave. We could not eat it. It wasn't that it tasted bad, it was gray. It was just very unappetizing looking. Um, yeah, they were pretty simple questions, Barb. Uh, Rachel says, I saw one where interviewer as an American girl in UK, how far ahead UK was in time. She didn't know, but then said, if they are ahead, why don't they warn us of things from the future? Yeah. And you gotta question whether or not they were just pulling their leg or they really believed it. And the sad part is they probably really believed it. Uh, oh, thank you, Kim. Yeah, hit the like button, people. Um, Judy says, do they still have textbooks in schools anymore? Very good question, Judy. I've been out of the classroom for over 13 years now. Last I looked, they were doing everything on Chromebooks. The school was issuing Chromebooks. And I think, yeah, I don't think they're issuing textbooks anymore because they give them all to them in digital format. They read them from their Chromebooks or phone or whatever with it. In one way, that saves the school money because books are expensive and every year you have to replenish the supply, and especially English. I had quite a budget for books because we had a lot of books when you're teaching English. So yeah, in some ways I could see that as being advantage. Um, Barb says high school students cannot read an analog clock. Yeah, that was one of the things they held up. A guy had a drawing of an analog clock. The big hand was on the 10, the little hand was on 2, and asked, what time is this? They looked at it and stared. They didn't have a clue how to tell time from an analog clock. I suppose it'd be the same if you gave them a rotary telephone as well. So anyways, on that note, should I do more of these? What I'm thinking is maybe I would set aside maybe the first Monday or the last Monday of every month and do it as a live. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and we've got 56 people here, which is like about 12 times more than I thought were going to show up for this. And I have to say, I kind of enjoyed this, doing it, and it sounds like some of you did too as well. So if you want, you can write a comment down below. Let me know if you think this is something I should do on a little bit more regular basis, and I will plan accordingly to that. Oh, I think it's snowing. Yep, it is, of course. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me today for this. Without you, I would have been just talking to myself. Wouldn't be the first time. And tune in tomorrow to the Idiot Quilter. It's not a live. Of course, it's my regular. And then hopefully for So Chatty this week, we'll get to see what Walter can do as he experiments with Lucey and free motion quilting. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good week. And of course, we have Sewing with Me on Wednesday as always. Link for that. It's always in the show notes as well. So yeah, so everybody have a great week, and we'll see you soon, real soon. Bye, everybody.